Traded. Well, come on over to Foxborough, my friend. But 49ers have some history with trade requests like this. Take a listen to John Lynch.
John, last year you gave us an absolute that Bosa would not be traded. Would you make that same statement about Brandon?
Well, Kyle and I always, we kind of, I did say that with Bosa, and I felt that way. But, I think, again, no absolutes there. We fully intend on Brandon being a Niner moving forward.
Okay, here's Brandon Aiyuk's stats these last 2 years. Led the league in yards per catch last year. Also had 7 touchdowns. So how badly do the 49ers need Brandon Aiyuk?
They shouldn't need him. No team in the league, even if they lose Brandon Aiyuk, has the skill position talent the Niners have. There might be a couple teams you could argue are close, but last year, teams that made the playoffs, and how many offensive studs at running back, tight end, wide receiver did they have? Skill position guys. Packers did it, I would argue, with 0. You know what I mean? They don't have a single guy that's like a clear-cut, all-pro level. Aaron Jones kind of on the downswing. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Cowboys, the Texans did it, in my opinion, all with 1. For the Texans, I'm giving Nico Collins, you could say that they're 0 as well, but they all did it with 1. The teams with 2, we think, oh my goodness, they're dynamic. The Bengals, they didn't make the playoffs, but they typically do. The Lions with Amon-Ra and the rookie Sam Laporta, I don't know where you would include Gibbs. The Eagles with both of their receivers. The Dolphins, both their receivers. The Niners have 4. They have the second best tight end, the best running back, an all-pro level receiver in Debo, and an all-pro receiver in Brandon Aiyuk. They have 4. Nobody else has 3. So they shouldn't need him. Now, I think they do, because I happen to think those guys are, rising the tide of their quarterback. But especially if you think, oh no, Brock Purdy's the real deal. That guy maybe he's not league MVP, but he is a clear-cut, no-doubt top 10 quarterback, then you definitively don't need Brandon Aiyuk. What top 10 quarterback is not okay with the best running back, a top 3 tight end, and 1 excellent wide receiver, and then the kid they drafted, Juwan Jennings, those other guys, as the other receivers. But I think we all kind of deep down know they do need him because of where they're at the quarterback spot.
They simply do need him. They flat out need Brandon Aiyuk.
How do you square that with believing in Purdy?
So both can be true for me. I think they believe in Purdy, but they also know we have to have depth. And I'll tell you why they need him, because this is a team that has been riddled with injury almost every single year. It doesn't matter who it is. It's somebody's going down. And as many names as you can mention on that offensive side of the ball, when you talk about Deebo Samuel, the first thing we think about is if he can stay healthy. When you think about Christian McCaffrey, prior to him even getting there, it was like, man, if he can stay healthy. Granted, he's been relatively healthy, but he still missed time. George Kittle, the same thing can be said. And with Kyle Shanahan, the way he uses these guys in this offense is so unique that if you take any one of these guys out of this lineup, it changes who they are. I'm not saying that they can't win and they can't have success, but in order for them to accomplish what they want, which is to get to the Super Bowl and win it, Brandon Aiyuk has to be on that roster.
But I agree with you because I don't believe in Purdy. There is nobody, I don't think anyone would say, let me take a quarterback that the jury's still out on, that if C.J. Stroud had Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel, well, it's not going to be enough. He can't win. Jordan Love, we've seen 10 games from him. And if all of a sudden Christian, Deebo, and Kittle went to the Packers, be like, well, unless they get Aiyuk too, I just don't think they're going to have a good enough offense. I just don't. Jared Goff. I just don't think we would say that. I think the only reason you can say they have to keep Aiyuk and why the Niners are not going to trade him is because they are worried that they are still limited somewhat at the quarterback position. If Purdy's excellent, then there's no world that he needs 2 great receivers and the best running back and a great tight end.
So do you think they should trade him?
I think that, at this point, I think that if they truly believed in Purdy, they should have traded Aiyuk before the draft, because you're going to need that money for Brock. You're going to need to get younger. You're going to need to do, follow the Chiefs-ish model to a degree. At this point, because you're not going to get anything for him this season, you might as well kind of do what the Bengals are doing with Higgins. Like, we might lose you for nothing, but we want to, try to go all in. So I understand that piece of it. But I just don't. Is there any other great quarterback in the league that we would say needs 4 awesome weapons in order to be a contender?
Is there any argument, Greg, that the same criticisms that we level at Brock Purdy, you can level at Brandon Aiyuk? Where it's like a lot of system, everybody's open all the time.
See, I feel like you can say that about almost any player when they're having success within a system. But if I'm going to go, let's go to Philly. And let's look at Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Do we say, oh, man, who would he be if he didn't have
I
A.J.
do.
Brown? Okay.
Yes.
But do we still think that Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback?
Good, yes. Great, no.
Brock Purdy, for me, when I look at this, and I was on that side with you with Brock Purdy, like, I need to see it, I need to see it.
You're going to be back eventually.
Now I'm like, nah. If you take Brock Purdy away from that team, it looks a little different. We've seen it.
Yes, they went to a Super Bowl. What do you mean? And they went to an NFC Championship game. Don't tell me that Trey Lance, he started 3 games. Like we did see it, and it looked a lot like this. You go on deep playoff runs, and when you need your quarterback to just come through in a few big moments, he doesn't. That's what it looked like. Now, I think he's better than Jimmy G, but Jimmy G also never had Christian McCaffrey. He didn't have this level of embarrassment of riches. Probably had better defense than this Niners team did. We did see it. It looked awesome.
You know what? You're right. It was below average for Aaron Rodgers' standards.
It was. I don't know if we can pull it up. It was
220 yards a game.
It was below average. He was somewhere between 14 to 17 in every major passing category.
You mean like Trevor Lawrence for his career?
That's fine, right? But I think one guy is 24 and on the upswing. Aaron's last year in Green Bay has been framed as bad for Aaron, when in reality, going 8-9, needing a furious rally at the end of the year after I think starting 4-8 to stay alive, and then losing a home game to the Lions where you throw a lollipop to lose the game and throw for 200 yards, have 0 touchdowns, 1 pick in a must-win game to finish that season. That wasn't like, oh, it's just because of Aaron's standards. It was an league average-ish quarterback year, maybe below average, maybe slightly above average. It was around the 15th best quarterbacking year in the league that season. That's the last time we saw him play. And everyone's like, oh, it was his thumb, but the winning streak, it was better. But then week 18, I guess it was hurt again. It didn't make sense to me then. And oh yeah, since then, his coaching staff got worse, his head coach got worse, and he popped an Achilles. So I don't